Good morning, friends. Welcome to WordofGord, OBEJournal 2019, number 21. Getting focused in order to project. The thought to focus and the thought to project are, as we all know, part of this continuum, this tumbling dice of thoughts that continually stream through what we amusingly refer to as our minds. And the ability to focus on the thought, the inspiration, the desire to project, whatever method or ritual you may use, can be a challenge to pick out from that onrush of thoughts. You may be thinking about pizza with or without anchovies, or which household task is the most important, or which political outrage will occupy you for a few moments, or what to wear now that it's a little sunnier than it was yesterday. And we all go through this, and I do too. When I'm talking to you calmly and pointedly about these matters, be assured that I have that same experience. And it occurred to me this morning that pointing out our access to the mental realm, the mental body, as occult teachings would have it, slightly farther out in the aura than the astral body, and slightly more useful than traveling than the astral body, because it is not affected by turbulent emotions and desire in the same way that the astral body is, as we've discussed in past videos. And I know there's a lot of them. Traveling in the astral body, while the one that seems to be the most promoted and talked about, discussed and taught, has its pitfalls. And although vivid and exciting, it can lead you on many detours depending on your list of unconfronted desires, subconscious desires, which will pull you, because they're there like a vibration in your astral body, to that level of the astral plane where that desire is being acted out by others, or in scenarios where you can act that out. Need for love, need for food, need for praise, need for adventure, need for sex, of course, all these things. Need for fear. People get into a lot of fearful stuff because they have not confronted their fears. And they're sitting there burbling in the astral body, waiting for a, how shall I say, harmonic, a harmony to jive with. And as you're flipping through the astral, it can take you to any one of those things. And there are many accounts in the literature, and doubtless on the internet too, of people wanting to go visit a certain person, wanting to go to a certain place, wanting to reach out and merge with their higher self, or at least get a glimpse. And they get sidetracked all the time into this or that emotional turbulence or desire, or surreal dream, if you like, the mysterious surreal dreams where magical things happen, but you never seem to quite get to where you want to go to. That's all to do with the astral body and unrealized desires. In the mental body, things aren't quite so vivid, but you don't get sidetracked so easily. So, the onrush of thoughts in which your desire to project is but one, or a repeated one amongst others, is the same pool of energy from which the mental body makes its appearance, if you like. And so traveling in the mental body, which can be seen, perceived, although I wouldn't particularly recommend that you spend a lot of time trying to perceive it. Just be in it with focused intention. Just be in it. It can take you to the world of thoughts, to the world where thinking is king, if you like. It's a more refined area than the astral planes. Astral, mental, causal, buddhic, there's different levels. Whether you like the labels or find them fussy and old-fashioned, doesn't really matter. The levels are there. And I'm not insisting on those labels, but they're useful to me. And I suggest that you allow yourself the facility of their use. Now that turbulence of onrushing thoughts that we were discussing, it has been given to me that many other beings, such as spirit guides, have a similar experience, although they seem in their astral bodies in the afterlife, as spirit guides are, usually dead. Not 100% of the time, but to a large degree, that's who they are. Dead human beings that aren't incarnate right now, and generally have known you as a soul in previous, incarnations and spirit plane existences between incarnations, and are taking on that role as a learning curve, and have agreed to be one of your spirit guides and others too. So, now, newbie spirit guides may only start out with one or two, and they may be trainees, just in the same way that earthly jobs have trainees and training courses. They'll tag along with a more experienced guide and learn the ropes. So, to extend the metaphor, experienced spirit guides will have a number of souls that they are working with. And given that and their other spirit world activities, whether they be pleasurable or challenging or steep learning curves, or whatever. Keep them busy. Pleasurably busy in the main, but busy. And they too have a tumbling series of thoughts about what to do next. I don't think they're as troubled by them as we are. Their schedules aren't quite so tight. Their challenges aren't quite so high. But they do have them. They have to sort of sort out what's seems most important to do next. And now, although they can zip by in their, spirit bodies quickly, to 2 or 3, let's say, charges, and they may feel 2 or 3 calls for help. There'll be unconscious calls where you and me and someone like us might be pondering an issue and reaching out for assistance, or in the depths of an emotional tug of war about something or other, or a depression, and they will be called to 2 or 3 people almost simultaneously, and they just sort out what they're going to do, but they can zip and spend a minute of our time with one person, go to another, go to a third. They can do it in sequence, or if they're really good, they can split themselves up into 2 or 3 aspects, and each aspect goes to that person and seemingly in need. All these methods are employed, and if they're a slightly more newbie guide, they will themselves will ask for assistance, and maybe they've been given a workload a little beyond their capabilities. Staffing is always a problem, especially if there's a lot of disasters going on. I mean, there are people that specialize in wars and retrieval work in wars and quote unquote natural disasters, and there are busy times when the team is stretched, just like in a restaurant when it suddenly gets busy for some unanticipated reason, and you see the staff virtually running, and you feel sorry for them because you just kind of popped in for a snack and a drink, and the place is packed, and there's some reason or other that it is packed. Well, spirit guides are much the same. Things can tumble into place rather quickly, and in a, shall we say, a geographical area in which that guide operates or specializes. So again, that onrush of thoughts, call them inspirations, call them desires, but they are essentially thinking, what shall I do this next, do that next, go back to that, attend to this, all that sort of thing. Very similar to you and I sorting out our daily schedules and, the usual, as we talk in meditation practice, regrets from yesterday and anticipations of tomorrow. The sort of stuff that you have to toss out when you're entering mindfulness meditation and be in the moment and not be, influenced by regrets and anticipations, and realize that they're, clouds passing by. Other beings that I have encountered, let's talk about higher self for a moment. I think their ability or receptivity to thought is much increased from ours, although they can turn it on and off, I think, with greater ease than we can. But if a higher self has X number of aspects in incarnation at any one time, and that itself is limiting, because they're projections of aspects of themselves into timelines that are hundreds or thousands of years separate from the timeline that you and I are on right now, is a factor to be considered. Because although you and I might consider the past lives, our past lives that we've explored a little bit in experiences before, we might think, I wonder how that past life is doing, or I wonder what they're up to. And in a meditation or a regression, you can check on that, or you can have a go. But for higher self, I think they are significantly more real. Now, I'm not saying that in my merges that I've experienced confusion in higher self. I wouldn't say that. But there's a lot more going on. But their capacity to absorb and transmit and sort of put through as data to be coped with and absorbed is greater than ours. And partly because they're not so emotionally attached. You probably noticed in regression and in meditation, although sometimes you have an emotional attachment to past life experiences, there's others where they just seem like actors in a play that you may be curious about or enjoying, but you don't have that emotional attachment to that you might have to certain dramas unfolding in your current life. Well, it's the same for higher self. I don't think they have emotional attachment to anything. They have a bond of love, compassionate love, but it's a permanent structure. It's not something they think about very much, at least not in my experience. They're more bemused by it than oh my God, that's my baby out there. Not quite like that. They've seen through the illusions of death and life and incarnation and disincarnation many, many times. So whether an aspect of theirs projected onto Earth is a suffering, joyful, avaricious, jealous, warlike, lustful, timid, devoted, pious. They don't have an attachment to those states. They have an interest and a curiosity and an ability to learn from that. But the emotional attachment is generally not there. They don't really care whether you're being lustful or pious or fearful or courageous or foolish. They just observe. And they don't always have to observe. It's like they switch on a spotlight. That's been my experience. They switch on a spotlight and it picks out a certain life that they're wishing to check on or that they feel a call from. Now, they don't generally help out on the calls. That's the spirit guides that do that, in my experience. And my experience, of course, like all of us, is limited. So I may say to you in a couple of years, well, I was wrong about that. But that right now, that's what it seems to be to me. And I think I've touched on this in my books, More Adventures in Eternity, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, they flip switches, they turn on spotlights, and they observe interactions. And those interactions can be anywhere, anytime, including other planets. It's not something we give a lot of thought to, but I think all of us know of the possibility, strong possibility, that there are aspects of us, of our higher selves, that are existing on other planets and have done all through what we laughingly refer to as time. And we've discussed on this series the I won't say fact, but the imaginative choice that we were, many of us, existing on other planetary systems, Arcturus, Sirius, etc., etc., before coming to Earth. Because Earth is a youngish kind of planet, only a few million years old. But that's in this antiquated measuring of time, which when you get out into the cosmos, and even the astral plane doesn't really seem to matter very much. But in scientific time, if you like, it's a youngish planet. And in terms of inhabitability, it is quite young. Inhabitability by the likes of us. So all these exist as possibilities for higher self to shine a spotlight on and check. And you move into some of the more thoughtful UFO abductee literature, and it will occur to you that it's quite possible that, to use an analogy from past life regression, that the victim in one scenario in Earth life and the victor in another will likely be karmically connected, might be the same soul reborn. And it's quite also possible that in an earthly drama, 2 or 3 of the main players could be projections of the same higher self that have an attachment to that drama, whether it's a power struggle involving manipulation, lying, lust, desire. They could all be in the same higher self. I'm not saying they have to be, but it's possible, quite possible. The archives of the life between life scenario, which are quite extensive at this point, would suggest that many souls, because of examining past lives and how they reacted or failed to react in certain stressful situations, will call up some of the souls that they interacted with in past life dramas. When I say dramas, I mean things that can be, quite unpleasant and violent. And say, okay, we've got all this karma, let's try and work it out in a way that's more beneficial or useful to us all. And they'll go through the basic themes of that drama: lust, power, manipulation, profit, control, fear, all that sort of thing going on. And see if they, in the upcoming incarnation, can put together a scenario whereby those themes will be reworked and perhaps more resolved with more sort of educative, beneficial sort of outcomes. That doesn't always work, but it's pretty obvious that these plans are made with the help of guides and are enacted in one way or another when we're here. So one can sense these patterns playing out over time, over, how shall I say, planetary locations, and in the mental bodies of those who are attached to those enactments. So I hope this has been indicative of the type of onrush of mental activity that we experience when attempting to focus, to project. That pattern of behavior, that onrush of energy that takes form in thoughts, because all thoughts and emotions are taken from the energetic stream that surrounds us at all times, the ongoing flow of energies going through the multiverse. We partake of those energies as our minds partake of the universal mind. What was that line Jim used to sing? I was doing time in the universal mind. Great line. One of the great poetic lines of the 20th century, so far unrecognized. I was doing time in the universal mind when you came along with a suitcase and a song. Isn't that a beautiful couplet referring to the higher self and the personality with desire coming along with a suitcase and a song? Beautiful. Certainly up there with Riders on the Storm. So, shall we anticipate any other metaphors that can be used to describe this onrush of mental energy experienced by all? Although, as we ascend in the journey of spiritual realization, we do gain more, I wouldn't say control, but more ability to stand back from that onrush of mental energy. And whether in mindfulness meditation or just a general raising of vibration, where you're just as you move through the turbulence of emotions, which for many folk is well nigh impossible, into the onrush of mental energy, which can be very exciting, especially if you're involved in any kind of creative activity at all, whether it be arts or science or anything, engineering, mathematics, governance. To be in the flow of thought is marvelously exciting. But there is a place beyond it. There are many places beyond it. Intuition, whereas intuition is in thought, is it on to the side of thought, is it beyond thought? And perhaps a debate for another show. But there are definitely energetic places where you can position yourself to be beyond the onrush of thought. And never doubt that. Whether you successfully achieve that aim on any one occasion is another story. But it can be done. It can and has and will be done. So it is possible to be in a place of consciousness, watching yourself, making that desire manifest of, I would like to project. You can be out there somewhere in meditation, if you like, or in the course of a psychedelic trip, which we seem to be seeing a great resurgence of in recent years, and seeing the self enmeshed in its daily activities, in the apparent confusion of daily activities, and within that wanting, sitting down, lying down, practicing a meditation, to project, and either successfully projecting or not. And it is also possible to see the projector in the body, desiring, practicing, and the projected body as well. It is an exercise, and maybe we'll practice that one in a moment or two, because yourself in the projection is not like your only self or your ultimate self. It's just generally it would be the astral or the mental body. But it is an aspect of you, not the full you, but enough to be going on with. And that third being that is out there, higher up, peering down bemusedly, watching it all going on, can easily be there. It's not a chore. It is something that is quite possible. But you have to realize, A, that it is possible, and B, want to, shall we say, achieve it. And to quote an old line, we exist on many levels. And not realizing that we exist on many levels does not preclude that actuality. So, why don't you join me in a meditation here? Excuse me. Make yourself comfortable. Allow yourself to relax. And follow my suggestions. Using the instant transfer method, as we've practiced before, just project yourself way out of your body. There is no need for a location. You don't have to be in a beautiful alpine valley or a lovely park in an astral city or in a shack in some desolate lower astral landscape. Do that another time. Right now, I want you to project so that you are, an aspect of you is out there watching what's going on. Part of what's going on is your understanding, implicit. It's not something you have to work at. It's this implicit understanding that you have had many existences through the, shall we say, span of history on planet Earth. Let's stick to that for now. And although you can check in on any one of those incarnations to see what's going on, right now you are choosing to do something else. And that something else is looking at your physical being on the planet right now. Let's look at that physical being. Are they sleeping? Are they sitting? Are they meditating? Are they half asleep? Not a bad place to be, I might add. Look down at your physical being. understand the desire to project. Give that physical being the desire to project if they're not actively pursuing it. They will understand that it is an exercise. Watch as the projection activates itself. See that astral body or that mental body or that brief cloud of consciousness emerge from the physical frame and move away. See where it chooses to go. That projection, where does it want to go? It will have a desire to go somewhere, if not several places. And just watch where it goes. Does it roam around the neighborhood, the physical plane neighborhood? Looking for playmates? Looking for contact? Does it go straight to one of the astral planes to lovingly interact with deceased loved ones? Parents, children, friends, colleagues? Watch as its desire inspires it to go in a certain direction. See that you are not participating in that manifested desire. See how that astral or mental body has a percentage of total energy available to that soul. See also that the physical plane being still seated on earth, still relaxed lying on earth, has another percentage of the totality of energy. And that the you that is doing the perceiving right now from your vantage point has another percentage of energy. See if those percentage figures pop into your mind. And if they don't, worry not. It's just a small point I thought you might be interested in. Notice, if you can, your level of attachment to what that projected section of consciousness is doing or attempting to do. I'm not implying that you should not be emotionally attached. I'm saying measure the level of emotional attachment. Come to grips with it. Understand its function. And allow it the freedom to do what it needs to do. So there you go. That's the exercise. Allow it to unfold. And as that goes on, and you can withdraw yourself from that exercise. Nobody's going to be offended. You can allow it to go on and take that observing consciousness away. Allow the physical and the astral mental bodies to do what they want to do. As I make one final point for this this exercise, this talk, reading up on and observing through videos on YouTube the current rush of interest in psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, psilocybin, DMT. A lot of people furiously experimenting here and talking about their times and pondering the implications for our understanding of consciousness. Been checking that out recently, and it's reminded me of how in a psychedelic experience you can do, and people have done many times, didn't always talk about it years ago because A, YouTube wasn't there, and B, it was rather frowned upon, but not recently, last decade or so. And people will definitely refer to or hint at the ability to be to be far from the activities and desires and fears of the physical plane being. They will look at the physical plane being and see it as an amusing little robot reacting to desires and fears and playing social roles that have been learnt as they grew through family and society. And I've had that experience myself, of course. But they do realize the illusion of social construction, the construction of personas to navigate the challenges and dramas of daily existence. And the sense that it is all just a sort of a game that you have learned to play, a game that you did not know you were playing until you took that psychedelic, which enabled you to separate from the game playing self and just be some version of your inner self that wasn't game playing. And this is very similar to the exercise that we have just done. And if you're wondering, are we going to do more of this psychedelic stuff, Gord? I'll certainly be referencing it more because people are doing great things. They're advancing in this work and this game playing work, and it is definitely relevant to our discussions of consciousness projection and interaction with other sentient beings. And we'll be getting back to all of that very soon. And I wish you well in the interim, friends.